While riding in car with my college girlfriend of 3 years and her family, her father made me get out and walk home because I wasn't family. Reddit. What is the most awkward moment you've ever had? My grandparents, both in their late 80s, invited me to come down to Florida for spring break one year, and they said I could bring a friend. I was thrilled, and so was my friend M. She and I booked our tickets and were really excited for our trip. About a week beforehand, Graham called me to talk logistics. What kind of food should they have for us? What kinds of things would we like to do? Would we be wanting to share a bed? She kind of slipped that last one in there, and I, shocked, told her that M and I are not gay. I'm pretty sure she didn't believe me, because every morning at breakfast while we were there she told us about how there were several gays at her church and they were wonderful and the whole congregation was very open. It was the cutest thing, but so awkward, especially when my World War II vet grandpa, strong and silent, chimed in his acceptance. TLDR, my grandparents are extremely supportive of my non-existent gay relationship. After so many posts about awkwardness coming from relations not accepting choices of significant others, this over-acceptance is really refreshing. I once went to my girlfriend's for Christmas in high school because my parents went on vacation. During dinner, her sister decides to announce she's pregnant. She's a 20-year-old, single college student. Who's the dad? My 27-year-old cousin. They met at one of our family functions. My most awkward moment. I had been friends with this guy for 9 years. We were both sophomores in college, and he was home for Christmas break, staying with his parents. We discovered that we had feelings for each other, but decided we didn't want to date long distance. But, while he was home, we wanted to spend time together. We were with a group of friends, but decided to go back to his house, just the two of us. He had asked his parents earlier in the day if he could have friends over. Well, his parents already disliked me. My brother had dated my friend's sister, and broke her heart. Whoops. So I show up at their house, with them expecting a group of people, and it's already awkward. Then, my friend and I spent a couple of hours in his basement making out. By this time, it was pretty late, around 1:30 AM. He went upstairs to get his keys to drive me home, and when he came back downstairs his eyes were really wide, and he said, "I'm so sorry." Apparently his mother was still awake, and refused to let him drive me home that late. So she decides it would be better if she drove me home. It was a 20-minute drive, and the car was completely silent. 15 seconds is a long time to be silently awkward in a car full of hostility. I don't think I would have been able to contain myself. I would have just started laughing at her father. I used to babysit a 3-year-old when I was in high school. It was her birthday and her dad invited me. I bought her a stuffed snake since she was into snakes, and some helium balloons, and showed up a few minutes early in case the parents needed some free babysitting while they set up. I get there, and nobody is there except the mom and the 3-year-old. So I play with her and supervise while the mom ignores I exist, which is cool, she scares me anyways. About an hour goes by. Things are getting a bit awkward. Nobody is showing up. I'm in their house being in the way, but leaving now would be rude. So I wait around. Finally kids and family show up. The kids are upstairs. All these adults are sitting around the living room, and nobody acknowledges I am there. I smile and try to say hi, but people just look away. So I stand in a corner by the stairs waiting to be thanked so I can leave. And about another hour goes by, me just standing right there in the corner of the room, about 5 feet away from everyone. Awkward as frick. The dad shows up and he stands right next to me, staring into space, sipping a beer. I try to chat with him but he just nods and stares off into space, ignored by the rest of the people as well. Finally I'm thinking frick this, so I announce I have to go. Everyone just stares for a second, then turns away, so I just walk out of their house. No thank you, no bye, no hello, no offer of food or drink, no offer to sit down. You were dead the whole time. Only explanation. Why didn't he want her to date you? There must be a reason, even if it's a stupid one. Last year I went to visit a friend Shirley after her brother had died. Her brother committed suicide by running the car in the garage. When I got there was another girl at the house. I don't remember her name but let's call her Lisa, who was eating a plate of food that Shirley's mom had cooked. Before I got to the house, apparently Lisa had driven Shirley's dad somewhere down the street because Shirley's family wasn't using the car that killed their son. I don't know the exact details. Anyway, before Lisa leaves, she asks Shirley if she can have gas money for driving Shirley's dad down the road. It was literally a mile or two that she drove him, so I thought it was a bit stingy of her. So Shirley calls her dad into the room and says Lisa would like gas money for driving you today, and her dad says okay, and I would like food money for the food you ate in my house. It was really awkward, but I was proud of her dad. Wow, you telling this story reminded me that the same thing happened to me. I was at a friend's house. He was asked to come downstairs. After a long enough time period, I got curious and wandered downstairs to his family eating dinner, but I just silently stepped outside and walked home. The mourning process is such a fragile time, and even the smallest actions can be downright awful. I remember when my uncle hung himself and I had a few finals left to take for school and almost punched a teacher in the face when they started complaining to me about how to plan my vacations ahead of time rather than at the last minute. I went to my friend's house once and my friend and her mom got in a huge fight. I ended up just petting their dog in the corner staring. Oh my god. I remember my friend doing that in high school. We went over to his house during a spare, and his mother called him out on going on the computer late at night. They had a scream fight. He punched a wall, and I sat on their couch wondering if I should just dive out the window or wait for them to finish. I was talking to a friend of mine about my upcoming formal, I think it's a prom in America. She said that she couldn't wait to go and that she had just bought the most beautiful dress. I was a bit confused because I didn't know she was going and asked her who was bringing her. She said John was, mutual friend, not his real name. Now this is where it gets awkward because I knew John had actually asked another girl we knew. I seen him ask. So I say to her, are you sure? I thought he was bringing X. She looks at me with a confused expression and gets out her phone to text John. We stand in awkward silence for what seems like an eternity until finally John replies, but to my phone asking me to tell her she isn't going. I show her the text and she just says oh, then looks at me and says I have to get back to my mum, and practically runs away holding back tears. As it turns out, John asked our friend, then decided he didn't want to bring her anymore and just asked X instead without ever telling her. I have never felt so awkward than when I was having that conversation, and have never been so furious at someone as I was at John. This happened to me in high school, but the friend of the douche counter-offered to take me. Our school marching takes a trip to Orlando, Florida every 4 years, and I went as a sophomore. The entire trip, a girl in my section that I had been friends with for a long time began flirting with me, holding my hand and whatnot. After the week was over, basically everyone knew there was a thing between us. Now, we are sitting by each other on the way home on the bus, nearly back to our hometown, napping under a blanket when she slowly undoes my belt and reaches inside my pants. It is 3 in the afternoon, broad daylight. We both continue to pretend to be sleeping. Then I hear the girl in the seat directly in front of us say look, is she, followed by dead silence in the back of the bus. She slowly withdraws her hand from my shorts, leaving me to refasten my own belt whilst pretending to be unconscious. TLDR. I received an unsatisfactory handski in full view of 15-16 people in the back of a bus. What the frick? You never out someone giving a handy in the back of the band bus. That's what the back of the band bus is for. Way back in high school, my then boyfriend was over visiting at my house. I decided to be nice and heat up some leftovers for him from the fridge. Right as I set down the plate, my dad walks in and says that is our food, and takes the plate away from him and sits down to eat it at the opposite end of the table. I just stood there in painfully awkward silence until my dad finished and left. What the frick is wrong with your dad? I was the only guy in a class of 25 students for psychology of women. The day's topic was domestic abuse, and the prof wanted to set the tone by asking everyone to close their eyes and engage in a visualization exercise. She wants us to think, in great detail, about how the typical domestic abuse incident plays out. She starts asking questions and various students provide answers. Who is the victim? A woman. Who is the aggressor? A man. Why is he abusing her? He came home from work, and dinner was cold, and so on. It is established through this exercise that the imaginary couple are poor, the man drinks, and they live in a trailer home. Then she asks what did he do to her and someone says he pushed her down the stairs. The girl next to me whispers, in a way that no one hears, there aren't stairs in a trailer home, which causes me to do a loud sputter laugh, in a way which everyone hears. I spend the next hour and a half in a room full of 26 women who think I think beating women is hilarious. C+ for the class. TL. DR. Classmates' snarky comment in a Psych of Women class caused the all-female class to think I was amused by violence against women. Oh dear. I can't imagine being under such heavy influence from my parents as to leave a partner of couple years just because someone demands it. I dated a girl named Chrissy for a year back in college. Her parents were divorced and she lived with her mother and never spoke fondly of her dad. I got the impression that he had cheated and that's what led to the split. About 9 months in, I finally meet Chrissy's dad while helping her twin sister move. I had dark, emo-y hair, a lip ring, visible tattoos, and it was obvious that he didn't like me right off the bat. He acted like a dong to me the entire day, and afterward Chrissy and him got into a huge fight over dinner over it, prompting us to leave midway through. He called her cell 10 minutes later and threatened to cut her off if she didn't break it off with me immediately. 8 years later, he is a client of mine and we get along incredibly well. He has no idea I'm the same guy who dated Chrissy. I think you should tell him that was you. You would both get a great laugh out of it. So back when we were 17/18, my boyfriend and I were in his room one day, just watching movies and chilling. His mum walks in and asks to talk to him. They both go out into the living room, and she proceeds to rant at him about how it's not normal for us to spend so much time together, and how she didn't like that we had been in his room all day. Meanwhile, I'm alone in his room, and can clearly hear the whole conversation. I gather my nerves and all my stuff, walk out to them, and say, "Matt, I'm going home. Would you like to come over to my house?" The mum interrupts with, "We are actually having a conversation here." So I just say goodbye and walk out the door. His sister, who suspected a conflict had been initiated by me, then chases me out of the door screaming, "You freaking bee. You ruined my family." I was pretty shocked by this and didn't respond and just got in my car and drove home. A few minutes later, my boyfriend shows up to apologize for his family. A few minutes after that, there's another knock on the door, and his mum had followed us to my house and asks him to talk to him outside. He told her to go home. This all happened a few months before we both moved away to university, so I just didn't go to their house again. We're now in our 20s and still together. His family is still crazy and he agrees. Luckily, we now live 5 hours from them. That's pretty freaking awkward. Yours was unprovoked. Mine, not so much. When I was 16 I was at my girlfriend's house watching movies, which meant making out and such. We had dinner with her parents, and she told them we were in the middle of the flick and could we finish it before they drove me home. They agreed and we went back in. Things escalated and she gave me a BJ, and her dad walked in as she was in the middle of it. He wanted me to walk home, which I wanted to do, but she flipped out and made him drive me home, which was in the next town over. So it was like 15 minutes of horrible silence. I went to my neighbor's house on the 4th of July with a big box of fireworks I had bought in Pennsylvania. We were drinking in his house for a bit before his mom showed up with his grandmother. They were outside on the porch and I was on the other side of the glass sliding door preparing the fireworks to bring outside and downing a beer. I finish my beer and grab the box to go outside and step directly into the screen door, which I hadn't realized was still closed. I go completely through it and tear the door off the hinges, all while screaming obscenities in front of his mother and grandmother. They don't let me drink at their house anymore. I can picture this so perfectly because my friend did something similar. My family had my friend's family over for dinner. All of us kids were inside but the parents were outside. My mom called us because the food was ready and my friend got overly excited and ran outside, taking the screen door down with her. She mutilated it, and she weighs about 115 pounds. We never let her forget it. Was told to move my vehicle from GF's driveway because it's dirty. I lived on a gravel road and the mom didn't want neighbors to see it apparently. She also freaked out when I wore khaki shorts to their country club for dinner. I was never informed of a dress code. She wanted me to pretend to be a foreign exchange student. It didn't help that I met their daughter through mowing their lawn the previous summers. Apparently she felt that the help was not worthy of her daughter. I had a similar situation except I wasn't thrown out of the car. I was thrown out of their house 8 miles from my own. I was 15 and had been dropped off there. Her dad was drunk and got all crazy and threw me out, then beat the heck out of her. Her mom had him arrested and 2 days later when he got out of jail she dumped me. I had to walk the entire way because cell phones weren't considered necessities to the common folk yet, and hitchhiking was useless in the middle of the day with no traffic and nothing around but corn and bean fields. I was out at a bar with a few friends having dinner and drinks while watching the hockey game. Midway through dinner I have to excuse myself to go use the restroom. I walk into the bathroom and there are 2 urinals and 2 stalls. One of the stalls was occupied while the other was missing a door. The business I had to conduct needed a stall, so I decided to wait a minute or two for the other one to free up. After about 5 minutes things start to get urgent. I decide to use the stall without a door. I figured if anyone walked in they would understand and it wouldn't be that bad. After sitting down for maybe a minute, a man walks into the bathroom. He sort of takes a peek into the stall and then asks, "Hey, there is no door. It looks broken." I assure him that he is correct and the door is in fact non-existent. He then asks me what I was doing in the stall. I gave him a quick explanation of my predicament. He nods and goes about using a urinal. I was relieved thinking that conversation was over. Wrong. He finishes and sits on the counter facing me and starts having a chat about the hockey game. It's amazing how unnerving it is to make eye contact with someone while taking a crap. I tried to keep my answers short and made it clear I was in no mood to chat. However, he kept insisting on making small talk with me. After a solid 5-10 minutes of this going on, he finally leaves. I quickly start to clean up and hope to God that no one else comes in. The guy was gone for 15 seconds before he popped his head back into the bathroom and asks, "Hey, you sitting at the bar?" With my hand cleaning my butt, I said number, TLDR. Got forced into small talk by someone who was observing me taking a crap. I am currently dating a Pakistani girl. I was over at her house watching a movie and I brought sort of jokingly that she owed me $20. She did. Normally I wouldn't care but I needed gas money. This escalated and we had a little argument and were just silent for a while, which is normal for us when we have an argument. We just shut up and let it pass. So 5 minutes later or so her parents and aunt come downstairs to watch the movie with us. This is where it starts to get awkward. They notice we aren't speaking to each other and her father starts speaking to her in Urdu. She sort of just brushes him off in English. "Not now, Dad," he says something again. Then her mom says something. Then her aunt says something. My girlfriend again basically just says "not now" in English. Mind you, it's not uncommon for them to speak Urdu around me. It's their first language after all. So they keep talking in Urdu, gesturing at me. My girlfriend is becoming more and more visibly upset. I have no idea what is happening at this point. Eventually she just goes to her room. I am left sitting there while her mom and aunt watch the movie and chat in Urdu. The aunt's English isn't very good, and her father glances between me and the movie. I excuse myself to go to the bathroom and then go talk to my girlfriend. Her family was asking what happened but she just wanted a little privacy. I seriously had no idea what was happening. TLDR, my GF's Pakistani family was arguing about me in Urdu while I was sitting next to them. I had no idea what was happening. I spent the weekend at my girlfriend's place when I was 19. She lived 2 hours away. I went to take a shower one night and I apparently forgot to lock the door. As I opened the curtains, her mother opened the bathroom door. I stood there for a second in shock, grabbed the towel I always hang over the curtain rod, then covered my nether region. She stood in the doorway staring at me for a good 10 seconds, looking me up and down. She finally blinks her eyes and quickly exits. I dry off and go into my girlfriend's room and tell her what happened and she gets mad at me. The next morning my girlfriend gets up before me and her mom comes into the room. I'm awake but just laying there in bed. She asks my girlfriend if I told her what happened the night before and she says yes. Her mom says, He's got a nice body. Don't lose that one. Her mom exits the room and my girlfriend is now pee at me again. She was an unreasonably jealous person. TL. DR. My ex's mom, girlfriend at the time, walks in on me naked after a shower and compliments my manliness to my ex. Ex gets mad at me. You have been visited by the romantic doggo. Comment. Love is magic, so you never fall in the friend zone. Plus thanks for watching. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.